This is the brand new Mazda CX-90 Plug-In Hybrid 3-row SUV. It's big, but depending on your driving habits, it can be efficient. Today we'll look at the exterior, interior, efficiency, safety features, what we like, what we don't like, and if you should even buy a 3-row crossover. Today, let's talk about it. The CX-90 is Mazda's brand new 3-row SUV. It replaces the slightly smaller CX-9, and it competes with SUVs like the Kia Telluride, the Volkswagen Atlas, the Honda Pilot, the Toyota Grand Highlander. The CX-90 is also part of Mazda's plan to move upmarket to the quote near luxury category. The interior design and luxury features are dialed up a bit more from the CX-9. It can be had with an inline 6-cylinder, but what's far more interesting to me is that it can also be had as a plug-in hybrid, which is what we have here. It's pretty unusual for this class of vehicle. Okay, so let's take a look at the exterior design of this 2024 Mazda CX-90 PHEV Premium Plus package. Yeah, it's kind of a mouthful, but that's what we've got right here. So this thing is kind of gargantuan for a Mazda. It's not as big as something like a Cadillac Escalade, but you know, this 3-row SUV is rather large, and one of the things I notice about it is this insanely long hood. Kind of gives it sort of athletic proportions, but it also makes it a little bit hard to gauge where the front of the vehicle is when you're driving it. It looks pretty cool, but yeah, this is a very big vehicle. So I'm sure you're used to seeing Mazda CX-5s on the road. This is kind of like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man version of a CX-5. It's kind of expanded in all proportions. And this white paint right here with all these bulbous kind of lines, it sort of reminds me of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Not sure why I'm getting that reference. But anyway, this white paint you see right here is a like $600 option. I'm not sure why white paint is an option. Shouldn't this just be like the standard color? You can get it in a kind of nice red, but they sent me this white one. All the press cars I've been getting lately, white, gray, silver, gray, gray, silver, gray, white. Here's another white one. So yeah, this sort of just kind of looks like a Mazda 3 wagon on some serious steroids. The grille right here is very similar to other Mazda offerings right now. But yeah, in general, if you've seen a Mazda in recent years, this just kind of looks like an extension of that design language. But yeah, it's a large vehicle. I'm not sure if this is the largest vehicle that Mazda has sold in the US, but certainly could be. This also can be had with an inline 6-cylinder motor. That's probably why this hood is so long, to fit that gigantic engine in there. But right here you can see no inline 6 badge. It has the PHEV badge on the side. It's certainly not going to get Prius Prime efficiency figures, but it's nice that you can at least get a large vehicle as a plug-in. That should help with fuel efficiency at least a little bit. And on the driver's side of the vehicle, that's the fuel door. You'll notice if we go all the way around to the other side, that is where you plug it in. I'd say it looks pretty nice for a crossover. You know me, I'm not like a huge crossover fan, but it does look pretty cool. It sort of gives me early Infiniti FX35 vibes. And then moving on to the back, kind of getting sort of BMW-ish vibes back here. Mazda is really trying to go for an almost luxury vibe with their brand, and with the exterior designs they've had over the last few years, I think they're achieving that. It's pretty, but it doesn't exactly stand out from the 7,000 other SUVs on sale today. And yes, it's big. At over 200 inches long, it barely fits in my garage. The wheelbase is 7.5 inches longer than the CX-9 it replaces. All right, so you kind of get the standard Mazda key fob. There's actually no remote start function on here, which I was kind of surprised about. So let's step inside. So my first impression of this interior is that it's a reminder that Mazda does interiors really well. Everything that you touch has a nice soft touch surface. There's lots of really nice choice of materials and shapes. Everything in here just looks really comfy, looks really luxurious. I like the combination of this light fake wood trim, I'm assuming it's fake, and this aluminum trim down here. There's some nice stitching on the dashboard. The center console is kind of gigantic, but it looks really nice. There's a huge panoramic sunroof, and it does actually open. Even the top of the dashboard, which you'll never touch, is a nice kind of squishy soft touch material. And the fact that it's this material, it's sort of a matte material, it won't glare when the sun hits it. Judging from this interior, it's pretty clear that Mazda wants to compete with Volvo, Lexus, and BMW rather than Toyota and Honda. But not sure the Mazda badge means luxury to that many people just yet. And here's my view from the driver's seat. You can see that there's kind of small windows on the sides, but the visibility is okay. Visibility at the front is actually pretty good, although it is very difficult to tell where that leading edge of the car is. So if you're making your way around parking lots, it could be kind of annoying, but I guess that just goes with the territory with a large 3-row SUV. And visibility out the back is pretty terrible, especially with those 3rd-row seat headrests up, or if there's anybody sitting back there, you're really not gonna be able to see out that back window. Even with those headrests down, it's hard to see. It's gigantic C-pillars in this vehicle. I guess it's good that it has a pretty good backup camera and a pretty good 360 camera. This view right here isn't really all that useful to me. It's a little bit too far away, but using the scroll wheel down here, I can change it to the other view. And that's a little bit better. 360 view is okay. All right, moving on to in front of the driver, you can see this full screen digital dash that this Premium Plus package gives you. It's pretty clean. It does feel like at times there can be a little bit too much information, but it is customizable. You can change the gauges. You can add or remove some information if you don't want to see anything. I like the fact that the speed you're going is right front and center in the screen here. There's other cars where it's like kind of hidden off to the left. The speed is the most important piece of information that you need at all times. So I like the fact that it's in the center. I feel like all cars need to do this. So right under the speed, it lets you know if you're using the EV motor, which it shows right now, or if you're using the gas engine. And on the right, you can see the level of our battery is a little bit over half, and the fuel is almost full. And it gives you a range for both the battery and the fuel down there. The steering wheel is really nice. It's got a good feel. Kind of feels like it belongs in a Miata and not a 3-row family SUV, but it's pretty nice. This sporty steering wheel also has paddle shifters, which I don't really know why you need it in a vehicle like this, but you can shift yourself if you'd like. I guess Mazda, with its sports car roots, is just trying to eke a little bit of sportiness into this 3-row family crossover. Yes, it's sporty. It's got paddle shifters. The steering wheel looks like it was out of a Miata. It's sporty, right? Okay, Mazda, sure. Right, in terms of seats, you got this really nice white leather, and you can get the seats really far back. I'm 6'3", and I can get it way further back than I actually need it. 8-way power adjustable on the driver's side and 7-way adjustable on the passenger side, which is pretty nice. You have 2 memory positions down here. These seats are also heated and ventilated. And as you can see with this really light colored leather, it's picking up some of the dyes from the fabrics of people sitting on it. So yeah, it's not gonna stay looking nice that long, but that's just the way it goes with white leather. Right down here is the climate control system, and I really appreciate that there are actual physical controls for things that you use most frequently. Temperature up and down, auto, that kind of thing, fan speed, all of that has actual buttons. Yeah, there are kind of a lot of buttons down here, all in a long row. So you do still have to take your eye off the road to just make sure that you're hitting the right one. But even with all these buttons, in my opinion, this is far better than a screen-based climate control system, which you absolutely have to take your eyes off the road to use. All right, let's look at this center console. This looks really nice. I appreciate that there's not a sea of gloss black here that will shine in your eyes. It is extremely wide, so if you're kind of tall or wide, you'll have your knee probably hitting on the side of it. Actually, I noticed a little bit over there too. So yeah, this is kind of a narrow driving area right here. I guess maybe that's another area where Mazda thinks it's sporty, but in fact, it's kind of annoying. It's not terrible, but I do appreciate, like in the Hyundai Ioniq 5, there's like nothing here and it leaves a lot of space for my knee. But in general, this looks really cool. Got sort of standard size cup holders if you need a place to store your coffee or your kids' toys. Down here is a charging pad for your phone. And right here is the My Drive switch, which is kind of a dumb name, but it allows you to change the driving mode from normal to sport to EV to off-road. Let's go back to normal. I'm not gonna be doing any off-roading. The shifter is nice and small, but the shift pattern is weird. Park is up and to the left instead of just in the top position. A couple of times I put it in reverse thinking it was in park. And down here, we move on to the controls for the infotainment system. Now, I really like this setup. I like the fact that you can control the infotainment system with your right hand without having to reach up and touch the screen. And a lot of this can be done with muscle memory. So if you remember how many times it takes to click over and press to get to a certain function, you might just memorize that without having to ever look at the screen, which is awesome. This is a really good implementation of a touch-free system. Mazda's been doing it for a while and it's really good. And when you have this up here, it doesn't let you touch the screen at all. When you actually go to CarPlay, now you can touch if you like, but also you can just use this dial to select what you need to select. And I much prefer this to pressing a button on the screen. I know other people don't feel the same way, but I really like this setup. And one nice thing is that it does have wireless CarPlay, which is really useful. But keep in mind, not all trims get wireless CarPlay. So going back to this Mazda menu, yeah, the graphics do feel a little bit dated, but it works. Could maybe use an update, but it seems like don't fix what's not broken. We have the split folding center console where you can store your phone, and that's where you can plug in your USB-C for your charge your phone or connect to infotainment system. Feels like there's a decent amount of space in there for kids' things. Down here, I kind of wish there was storage under here. I sort of really like that in some of the electric cars that offer that. Obviously, we have a transmission tunnel down there, so there's not a lot of space. So yeah, this just sort of feels antiquated, this big center console that just doesn't store a lot of stuff. Door pockets are actually pretty sizable, which is nice. And it does have an okay sized glove box. So yeah, in general, really nice, comfortable place to be. I do wish there was more space for my legs. This is a big car. I just sort of expect there to be a little bit more space width-wise, but in general, I can get this, like I said, I can get this way too far back. So, and there's no shortage of headroom even with this panoramic sunroof. All right, let's take a look in the second row. Very easy to get in this vehicle. And once you're back here, these seats are not as comfortable as the front ones, but they're pretty nice. I have my front seat set for me at 6'3", and I still have enough space back here to fit. Headroom is pretty good. And as you can see, there are two captain's chairs. We've got these nice armrests on either side. The rear of the CX-90 is available in 6, 7, and 8 seat configurations, but there are 11 trim levels and some option packages. So it's tough to figure out how many seats you'll get, but we've got 7 here. Blinds on either side, and down here you can see that there's a multi-zone climate control system. We also have heated seats in the back, which is quite nice. 2 USB-C ports, a couple vents. It also has these flip-up cup holders, which are only useful for cans or small water bottles or singamajigs. Door pockets are pretty large, but I noticed if you have kids, this white interior might not be the best choice. I've noticed that whoever was sitting here last, somebody got some pen on this door panel, and obviously it did not come off. So yeah, if that was black, you probably wouldn't notice it, but the fact that it's kind of this grayish white, it's probably gonna pick up all of those stains, all of those foods that your kids are gonna drop on every single surface of this vehicle. If you want to put a child seat back here, you have these ISOFIX or latch anchors down here in the seat. They're really easy to get to, but you do have these little covers that might get lost. Put them in your glove box or something so you don't lose them. But plenty of space to put either a rear facing or front facing child seat. And the step in is not too high, so if you've got a little one there, it's not too terribly difficult to get in this car. All right, let's check out the third row. And I never really enjoy doing this part of car reviews because third row seats are generally too small for me, but I'll do it for science, I guess. So it's really hard to climb through back here between the middle, although you could do it if you were a child. I'm going to get out of the car and fold the seat. Okay, so one thing you can do if you need to, you can fold this down, and that allows you to store some things in there. But if you actually need to get in the back, press this right here, and that will push it up. And you can see there's an okay amount of space to get in there. If you're a grandparent, it might not be the most fun thing to do, but I think I'm somewhat able-bodied. I think I can get back here. Let's see. So that second row seat is not back yet, but you can see my knees are kind of high up. I don't know how well I'm gonna fit back here, but let's try. Yeah, that's gotta come back a little bit further because that doesn't leave enough space for the person in front of me. If everybody up front compromised a little bit, I don't think it would be too bad to sit back here, but I am a little bit claustrophobic. I don't really like being in the third row of vehicles, but there are some nice accoutrements back here. USB-C ports, 2 cup holders on each side, and a vent. Pretty comfortable headrests. There are actually 3 seat belts back here. I wouldn't want to sit 3 adults back here, but if you just had a couple kids in the back, I think that would be fine. Just don't make your grandma sit back here all the time. She wouldn't really love it. It's not terrible. I've been in far worse. Mitsubishi Outlander. I'm looking at you. All right, getting out, pretty easy. Just press that, and then don't break a hip. Getting out of here. I really am getting too old for this. That's not me farting. That's the leather. Come on, get your mind out of the gutter. Whew, I did it. Push this back. There we go. Let's take a look in the back. Power lift gate. And as you can see with this third row up, not a ton of space back here. We've got just under 15 cubic feet of space behind the third row, which is pretty tiny for this class of vehicle. But you do have some outlets, one on either side. With those seats folded down, it does become a little bit more reasonable. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 with the seats down and 75 with all the seats folded flat. Lift this up, you can see that's where the charging cord goes, and this is where you might expect to see a spare tire, but no, you do not get a spare tire here, just a tire repair kit and a pump. I think it's kind of interesting when you open the hood and the car's on, the engine turns on. I don't really know why that is. It's kind of a weird feature. I'm sure somebody can mention in the comments why that is. And then you shut it and the engine turns off. It's very odd. Why is that? I feel like I should probably know that, but I don't. All right, let's finally drive this thing. Come join me for a little bit of plug-in hybrid fun. Mazdas are supposed to be fun, but this thing maybe is a little bit too big to be fun. Let's find out. So the CX-90 has two engine options, a 3.3 liter turbocharged inline six, and this 2.5 liter naturally aspirated four cylinder, and that's paired with a 17.8 kilowatt hour battery. Transmission is an 8-speed auto. Yay, no CVT. And all-wheel drive is standard. Power is rated at 323 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque. And even though this thing weighs over 5,000 pounds, it doesn't have any problem getting up to highway speeds, just over 6 seconds to get to 60 miles an hour. So I think many of us know that Mazda's history includes a lot of emphasis placed on driving fun. And I think Mazda did try to inject some fun into the driving experience here, but it doesn't quite work. And honestly, it's just not necessary, not with something this large, not for something that was built to haul around 7 people in a bunch of cargo. You know, honestly, 3-row crossovers shouldn't be fun to drive. And I think this one would be better if Mazda hadn't bothered with that here. So the steering feels kind of heavy like at all times, and sure, that makes it feel a little bit more secure and stable at higher speeds if you're on a winding road like this, but you'd be much better off doing that in a Miata. And that heavy steering is also present at low speeds, like when you're navigating around parking lots. I think lighter, more assisted steering would make the driving experience a lot more pleasant. I also find the suspension to be, I don't know, just too firm. But when the roads are smooth, it's fine. So, I don't know, this heavy steering and firm suspension, I think it's maybe Mazda pretending that Miata-inspired sportiness belongs in every crossover or every SUV, and it just doesn't. It's literally a 3-row crossover, a segment that's even more boring than a minivan. But yeah, in everyday driving, those aren't huge problems, but they were noticeable. This past week, we took the CX-90 on a road trip, and it really did soak up those few hundred miles with ease. Highway cruising is super comfortable. Everyone was happy. The stereo is really good. The amenities are really good. Actually, it was a really nice experience, especially when out on the open highway when there's not many other cars around. But honestly, aren't most driving experiences a lot better when there's no other cars around? But you know, on the highway, we're not really getting the full benefit of where this plug-in hybrid system shines, and that's around town. So you can run in fully electric mode, and with that, you can get 26 miles of range, kind of around 26. It sort of just depends on a lot of factors, of course, but that means you could possibly run many of your daily errands and never use any gasoline. I have it set to use full EV mode right when you turn on the car, and most of the time I've driven this vehicle, it's been in EV mode, almost no gasoline used. Of course, on that road trip, we did use a lot of gas, but for everyday errands, always EV. And there's this charge mode button, which I've used a few times, which can prioritize the gas engine's ability to charge the battery. So when you consider the driving habits of most people in the US, 26 miles of full EV driving is a lot. The average American only drives 37 miles a day, and more than half of the trips made in a day are less than 3 miles. So if your driving habits are similar to the average American, then the CX-90's EV mode could cover most of your driving. So, you know, depending on your situation, a plug-in hybrid could be a better choice than a fully electric vehicle, as you're not lugging around a huge, heavy battery underneath you, a big, heavy battery that you might not even be fully taking advantage of. And when you go on a longer trip, you can utilize the hybrid powertrain and not have to worry about charging stations and still get decent gas mileage. And if most of your driving habits are around town with only the occasional road trip, a plug-in hybrid may be the best choice. So charging on a level 2 charger takes about 2 hours, which is pretty decent. With level 1, it could take overnight, which is perfectly acceptable. Okay, so what about efficiency? This is estimated to get a somewhat terrible 25 miles per gallon when using gasoline only, but it makes up for that by achieving an impressive 56 miles per gallon equivalent when combining gas plus electric, and I've gotten about the same. And if you're looking to tow with the CX-90, you can do it. This PHEV tows 3,500 pounds, but if you want to tow a little bit more, the inline 6 can do 5,000. Okay, so let's talk about safety, which is one of the primary things you should be thinking about when purchasing a vehicle. In my opinion, the CX-90 doesn't have the most advanced driver's aids, but they're well implemented and they're pretty useful. We've got cruising and traffic support, lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, rear and front cross traffic alert, collision avoidance. When it comes to vehicle safety, most people just think of the safety of those inside the vehicle, but it's important to note that SUVs are less safe than passenger cars for anyone outside the vehicle. The height and weight of large SUVs are why they cause more death and injury to others than passenger cars. Now, we're not at Hummer EV weight levels here, but this CX-90 PHEV does come in at over 5,000 pounds, or a bit more than 2 Miatas. Well, let's assume that you've decided you need all of these seats in the cargo space and you'll use them on a regular basis. And when it comes to three-row crossovers, my opinion is that you're nearly always better off with a minivan. They're easier to get in and out of, they're more roomy, easier access to the third row, more cargo space, lower to the ground, often lighter and more efficient. Although this plug-in hybrid system does help the CX-90 win that last category. Okay, let's talk price. CX-90 pricing starts at just over 41 grand, which is comparable to the CX-9, but runs all the way up to well over $60,000 for the top trim with all options. That will probably seem like kind of a lot for a Mazda. This PHEV Premium Plus comes in at almost 59 grand with options, quite a bit more than you'd expect to pay for a Kia Telluride or a Honda Pilot, but this is more luxurious. The CX-90 may not have quite as much interior space as some of its competitors, but it has a much nicer interior, and this plug-in hybrid system is pretty efficient, and it may appeal to families that aren't quite ready to make the leap to a fully electric vehicle. If you're sold on the concept of a three-row SUV and you'll think you'll take advantage of everything that it has to offer, the CX-90 plug-in hybrid is an excellent and efficient choice, quite possibly one of the best three-row SUVs available today. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon. And if you'd like to help support the show, please consider buying a Hello Road t-shirt. Thanks so much, I hope you're well, and I'll see you soon.